All right, welcome to another deep dive. Looks like we're getting physical today.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could say that.
You've handed us a whole stack of CrossFit training materials, so looks like somebody's getting serious about their fitness.
It's great to see this.
Yeah. So we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah.
The core principles, training methods, nutrition advice, all that jazz. Who knows? Maybe we'll even try a WOD or two after this. Just kidding.
What I find fascinating about CrossFit is it's not just about, lifting the most weight or running the fastest.
Yeah.
It's about overall competence. Like being ready for anything.
Exactly. It's like training for whatever curveball life throws your way. Okay, so to help us on our deep dive today, we've got excerpts from the Level 1 Training Guide, a bunch of articles on CrossFit nutrition and training methodology, basically a crash course in the CrossFit philosophy.
Absolutely.
So where do we even start?
Well, I guess the first thing is what exactly is CrossFit? The training guide defines it as constantly varied, high-intensity functional movement.
Right, but what does that actually mean? Like, what makes it different from just, hitting the treadmill for an hour?
Right. Well, it's all about preparing for the unknown and unknowable, as they put it. Traditional fitness often focuses on like isolated exercises.
Yeah.
Or, really specific goals like running a marathon.
Right.
CrossFit, on the other hand, aims to build like a broad foundation of fitness that can handle pretty much anything.
So instead of just training to like run a marathon, you're training to be able to sprint, lift heavy objects, hike for hours, all sorts of things.
Exactly. It's about maximizing those natural hormonal and neuroendocrine responses, developing power, becoming a well-rounded athlete.
Makes sense. So what does that look like in practice? What kind of exercise are we talking about here? Because I've heard that CrossFit ditches the like bicep curls and treadmills for something totally different.
Yeah. It's all about functional movements, right? So instead of those isolation exercises, they focus on compound movements that engage multiple muscle groups at once.
So like pull-ups.
Pull-ups, squats, deadlifts, the kinds of movements that you might actually use in real life.
So it's less about like isolating specific muscles and more about training your body to work as like a single unit.
Exactly, like a powerful unit.
Gotcha. And what about cardio? Is it all like burpees and box jumps?
Well, they definitely do those, but instead of spending hours on the treadmill, they favored those high-intensity intervals.
Yeah.
Short bursts of really intense effort. And they believe that that leads to faster, more, comprehensive results.
It does make sense that like short bursts of intense effort would challenge your body in a different way than just like a long, steady state cardio session.
Absolutely. They're tapping into those different energy systems. You've got the phosphagen system for those quick bursts of energy, then the glycolytic system for like moderate efforts, and then the oxidative system for those endurance activities.
It's like CrossFit is hacking your body's natural energy systems to create a more adaptable athlete.
That's a great way to put it.
So with all this talk about, compound movements and high intensity intervals, it sounds like CrossFit has a pretty unique definition of fitness.
Yeah. And it's not just about those things. They break down fitness into 10 general physical skills. 10. You've got cardiovascular endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy.
Wow, that is comprehensive. It's interesting how, like, a lot of those seem interconnected,
Oh, absolutely.
Like you can't really have strength without some degree of flexibility or power without coordination.
Exactly. And that's what CrossFit's all about.
Yeah.
Developing well-rounded athletes who are competent in all of those areas.
So it's like you're training your body to be a Swiss Army knife, ready to tackle any challenge.
I like that. Swiss Army knife. Now, we've talked about compound movements, but CrossFit takes it a step further by incorporating elements of gymnastics.
Gymnastics. I'm picturing like people doing backflips and walking on balance beams.
Well, maybe not that extreme. But they use the term gymnastics more broadly to encompass any activity that focuses on body control. So think calisthenics, yoga, even climbing.
Okay. So it's about like mastering your own body weight.
Precisely.
Developing those core skills.
It's challenging but rewarding. Imagine nailing a handstand or a muscle up for the first time.
That would be pretty amazing. So we've got these compound movements, gymnastics-inspired exercises. What else is there?
Well, they also incorporate Olympic weightlifting.
Okay, so now we're talking about serious strength training.
Yeah, they utilize lifts like deadlifts, cleans, squats, and jerks.
To stimulate a powerful hormonal response and, build explosive power.
Exactly. But it's not just about lifting heavy weights. It's about technique and form.
Safety first.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount in CrossFit.
Right.
Proper technique is stressed from day one to prevent injuries and, maximize results.
So it's not just about like throwing around heavy weights willy-nilly.
No.
It's about building that solid foundation,
Exactly. And this focus on, holistic fitness extends beyond just the physical movements.
Right.
They actually have their own model for understanding fitness.
Okay.
It's called the Sickness, Wellness, Fitness Continuum.
The Sickness, Wellness, Fitness Continuum. I haven't heard of that.
So they see health markers, things like blood pressure, body fat, bone density, et cetera,
Yeah.
as existing on this spectrum.
Okay.
At one end, you have sickness, where those markers are all out of whack. And at the other end, you have fitness, where those markers are optimal.
It's a shift from just like treating illness to like proactively pursuing health.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So we've talked about the training, but what about the fuel? What does CrossFit recommend eating to support all this intense activity?
Well, their basic guideline is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Pretty simple. Right?
It does sound pretty simple, but I imagine for serious CrossFitters, it gets a lot more detailed than that.
Oh, yeah. For those who really want to, optimize their performance, they recommend weighing and measuring food, making sure you're getting the right balance of macronutrients to fuel those workouts and, support recovery.
So precision is key in both the training and the nutrition.
Yeah, definitely. But, let's be realistic. Not everybody can jump right into a CrossFit WOD at full intensity.
That's a good point. I mean, some of those workouts I've seen look downright scary.
Uh-huh.
So what about those of us who are just starting out or, maybe have some limitations? How does CrossFit accommodate different fitness levels?
Well, that's where scaling comes in.
Yeah.
And we can dive deeper into that in part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good. Scaling seems crucial for making CrossFit accessible to, well, pretty much everybody.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right modifications to ensure that you can participate safely and effectively, no matter what your starting point is.
Perfect. Well, we'll be right back after a quick break to delve into the world of CrossFit scaling.
Okay, so scaling, this is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah, because let's be honest, some of those CrossFit WODs I've seen look downright intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of scaling, right? It's not about making the workout easier.
Right.
It's about making it appropriate for your current fitness level so you can still, perform those movements safely and effectively.
So it's about like customizing the workout.
Exactly. To your own abilities.
Okay, I like that. So how do you actually go about scaling a workout? Like, what are the different ways you can adjust things?
Well, the training guide points out a few key variables that you can adjust. The load, the speed, the volume, and even the movements themselves.
Yeah.
But the golden rule throughout all of this is to preserve the stimulus.
Preserve the stimulus. What does that mean exactly?
So even though you might be modifying the workout, you're still trying to achieve that same overall effect on your body. It's like, you're adjusting the dials to match your capacity, but the destination, the intended outcome of the workout, remains the same.
So if the workout is designed to like build strength and endurance, the scaled version should still target those same qualities, just at a level that works for me.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's break down those variables one by one, starting with load. What does that mean?
So load simply refers to the amount of weight you're lifting or the resistance you're working against.
Okay, yeah, that seems like the most obvious place to start, especially for beginners. Like, you're not going to jump into lifting a 200-pound barbell on day one.
No, definitely not. If you're new to weightlifting or haven't been training consistently, you'll probably need to reduce that load significantly to protect yourself from injury.
Okay.
In fact, the training guide even suggests that newer athletes might start with less than 50% of the prescribed weight.
Wow, that's a lot less than I would have imagined.
Yeah. It really highlights the importance of starting slow and building that solid foundation.
Yeah. What about the speed of the movements? How does that play into scaling?
Well, speed often adjusts naturally based on your fitness level, right?
Yeah.
If you're struggling to keep up, you'll instinctively slow down. But a good coach will also be watching your form and might suggest, slowing down even further if they see your technique breaking down.
Right. So it's not about rushing through the workout. It's about maintaining that control and precision.
Exactly. And there are also times when a coach might encourage you to speed up, if they see you're capable of doing so without compromising your form.
So it's like a dance between pushing yourself and respecting your body's limits.
Yes.
Okay. What about volume? How does that factor into scaling?
So volume refers to the total amount of work you're doing in a workout. So things like the number of reps, rounds, or the distance you're covering.
Okay. So if a workout calls for like 10 rounds of a certain exercise, I might scale it down to 5 rounds?
Exactly.
Okay.
Reducing the volume is a great way to make a workout more manageable without necessarily like changing the exercises themselves.
Yeah, it lets you kind of get a taste of the movements and challenges without going overboard. Now, what about actually modifying the movements themselves? When does that come into play?
So modifying movements is usually like the last resort,
Okay.
because CrossFit really emphasizes learning and mastering those fundamental movements.
Yeah.
So they encourage scaling other variables first, but there are definitely times when, a movement substitution is necessary.
What would be like some reasons for substituting a movement?
It could be due to a physical limitation, an injury, or simply because you can't safely reduce the load enough.
Right.
So, for example, if someone can't do a pull-up yet, they might swap it out for a ring row.
Okay, so you're finding a similar exercise that works the same muscle groups.
Exactly.
But it's more accessible.
Yeah, the key is to choose a substitute that preserves as much of the function and range of motion of the original movement as possible.
Okay, so we've talked about all these different ways to scale, but I think seeing some real-world examples would be helpful. The training guide mentions a couple of sample workouts, Cindy and Fran. Can we use those as examples?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Cindy, the original workout is as many rounds as possible in 20 minutes of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats.
Yep. A classic CrossFit benchmark workout.
Yeah, that already sounds intense. So how would someone scale this, if they're not quite ready for that full version?
Well, there are a few options. One is to simply reduce the volume. So you could cut the workout time in half, say 10 minutes instead of 20. Or you could set a limit on the number of rounds you'll do.
Okay, so instead of going all out for 20 minutes, you could set a goal of completing, say, 8 rounds.
Exactly.
In that time.
Another approach is to modify the movements themselves.
Okay.
Remember that example of swapping pull-ups for ring rows? That's one option. Instead of push-ups from your toes, you could do them from your knees. And if air squats are too challenging, you might reduce the depth or use a target to squat too.
It's all about finding those modifications that, make the workout doable while still challenging you.
Right.
Okay, let's look at Fran.
Okay.
That one sounds pretty tough.
Fran is a CrossFit legend. 2159 raves of thrusters and pull-ups.
Okay.
A real test of strength and endurance. Scaling is essential, especially for those who are new to CrossFit.
All right, walk me through how someone might scale Fran.
Well, one common adjustment is to reduce the load on those thrusters.
Okay.
So instead of using the prescribed barbell weight, you could use a lighter barbell, dumbbells, or even just your body weight.
Okay.
And for the pull-ups, we could use those same modifications we talked about for Cindy.
Right.
Ring rows, jumping pull-ups, or band-assisted pull-ups.
So you're making both movements more manageable, but keeping that basic structure of the workout intact.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can also adjust the volume, right? So instead of 2159, you might do 1596. Or you could even just do one round, just to get a feel for the movements.
It's amazing how customizable these workouts are. You can really tailor them to your individual needs.
Exactly. And the training guide emphasizes that this period of scaling might continue for months or even years as you develop strength, skill, and endurance.
It's a reminder that fitness is a journey, not a sprint to the finish line.
Yes.
You're constantly adapting and evolving.
That's a great way to think about it. And remember, scaling isn't just for beginners.
Right.
Even experienced CrossFit athletes use scaling, maybe to address a weakness, work around an injury, or just focus on a specific aspect of their training.
So it's a tool that anyone can use.
Yes.
At any point in their fitness journey.
Exactly. It's about constantly checking in with yourself and adjusting your training to meet your needs and goals.
I love that. This whole deep dive into scaling has been super insightful. I'm starting to feel a lot more confident about, navigating the world of CrossFit. But now I'm curious about how those workouts actually get designed.
Yeah.
Do you think we can dive into that?
Absolutely. We can unpack the principles behind, designing effective CrossFit workouts and look at how they put all these elements together.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our CrossFit deep dive. We've covered the philosophy, the training methods, how to scale those workouts to fit your needs.
Right.
But now I'm kind of curious about the brains behind it all. Like, how are these CrossFit workouts actually designed?
That's a great question. Creating a successful CrossFit workout involves understanding some key principles, and it all starts with that familiar phrase, constantly varied.
Right. Always keeping your body guessing.
Exactly. And the training guide really dives into the why behind this in their What is Fitness Part 2 section.
Okay.
They emphasize the importance of training across broad time and modal domains.
Time and modal domains. Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me.
Sure. So think of it this way. You're not just trying to get better at one specific thing, right?
Right.
Like lifting a certain weight or running a certain distance.
Yeah.
You're aiming to build, a well-rounded fitness base that you can apply to any situation.
So it's like cross-training, but on a much broader scale.
Exactly.
You're constantly mixing things up to challenge your body in new ways.
Right. So one day you might have a short, intense workout like Fran, that we talked about earlier. Another day it might be a longer, more endurance-focused challenge.
Yeah.
And the types of exercises will vary too. Weightlifting, gymnastics movements, metabolic conditioning, it's all part of the mix.
It's almost like CrossFit is preparing you for life itself, because you never know what kind of physical challenge you might face.
Right. And this variety, it not only, keeps things interesting and prevents boredom, but it also helps to prevent plateaus.
Yeah.
And those overuse injuries that you can get from doing the same thing over and over again.
Right. Your body's constantly adapting.
Exactly. Because it never quite knows what's coming next.
Okay, so variety is key, but how do you actually structure a CrossFit workout? Is there a formula or a template that coaches follow?
Yeah, the training guide actually proposes a theoretical template for programming workouts.
Okay.
And it's based on this 3-day cycle. They alternate between single element days, 2-element days, and 3-element days.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's break down each of those days. What does a single element day look like?
So a single element day focuses on just one modality. So it could be, a 10K run or practicing a specific gymnastic skill like the handstand. Or maybe you're working up to a heavy lift like a deadlift. The key is intensity within that chosen area.
So it's like a deep dive into one specific aspect of fitness.
Exactly.
Okay. What about those 2-element days?
2-element days typically involve like a pair of exercises performed back to back, for a set number of rounds.
So like Fran and Sydney.
Exactly. Like those classic CrossFit WODs, short and intense.
Those definitely get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
So you're combining 2 different modalities into one, challenging workout. What about 3-element days?
3-element days involve, you guessed it, 3 exercises performed for a specific amount of time. And these workouts are often scored by the number of rounds or repetitions completed within that time frame.
Okay, so it's really testing your endurance and pacing.
Yeah. Yeah, and this template allows coaches to design a wide variety of workouts that are both effective and, engaging.
So it's like having a toolbox full of different tools and knowing how to use them to create that perfect workout.
That's a great way to put it.
But, I'm also wondering about the practical side of things.
Yeah, sure.
What are some tips for actually running a successful CrossFit class?
Well, the training guide stresses the importance of a clear class structure.
Right.
A typical CrossFit class starts with a warm-up, moves into the workout itself, and then finishes with a cool down.
That sounds pretty logical.
Yeah.
Prepare your body, do the workout, then help it recover. I imagine those warm-ups are pretty specific, though.
Oh, they are. They're designed to, increase your core temperature, prepare your muscles and joints for the specific movements that you're going to be doing.
Okay.
And it also gives the coach a chance to assess your abilities, suggest any necessary scaling options.
So it's not just about stretching, it's about priming your body for what's to come.
Exactly.
What about the cool down?
The cool down is just as important. It helps bring your heart rate down gradually, improve flexibility, reduce muscle soreness. It's a way to show your body some love after pushing it hard.
Yeah, for sure. The training guide also mentions these sample lesson plans for coaches. Are those helpful?
Oh, yeah. They're incredibly useful, especially for newer coaches.
Okay.
They outline the elements of each section of the class, how much time to dedicate to each. It takes, some of the guesswork out of creating a workout from scratch.
Right. It's a great resource, especially if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of support for coaches to ensure that they're, delivering safe and effective classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with, a structured plan, a good coach knows that flexibility is key. They're constantly observing their athletes, making adjustments as needed, and ensuring that everyone is working at a level that's, challenging but safe.
Right. And speaking of safety, that's something we've touched on earlier. The training guide really emphasizes responsible training, for both the athletes and the coaches.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount in CrossFit. They cover everything from equipment maintenance and arrangement to safe bailing techniques and hydration strategies. It's about creating that culture of safety in the gym.
It's great that CrossFit takes that so seriously because things can get pretty intense in those workouts.
Yeah, it's a reminder that pushing your limits shouldn't come at the expense of your well-being.
This has been an awesome deep dive into the world of CrossFit. We've covered so much, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
What stands out to you the most about CrossFit?
I think it's that emphasis on building like a complete and adaptable athlete.
Yeah.
It's not just about physical strength. It's about cultivating that mindset of resilience, determination, that willingness to constantly challenge yourself.
I think that's what draws so many people to CrossFit, right? It's more than just a fitness program. It's like a community.
Yeah.
A way of life.
Absolutely. And the beauty of it is it's accessible to everyone. Whether you're an experienced athlete or just starting out, CrossFit provides that framework for achieving your goals and pushing your boundaries. But it is crucial to find a qualified coach who can guide you on that journey.
Totally agree. So if you're looking for a fitness program that's, challenging, rewarding, and constantly evolving, CrossFit might be just the ticket. But remember, start slow, focus on those fundamentals, listen to your body, and find a coach who can support you every step of the way.
Absolutely. Enjoy the process, embrace the challenges, and celebrate those successes along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries. See you on the depth dive.